you guys, you played a big show in the US with Megadeth last year, I think it was. Did that lead to this support slot on the European tour?
Yeah, it did. In the past, you know, we had bad blood and stuff like that. We played the show together and mellowed things out, you know, kissed and made up, so to speak. And here we are on this tour. Everything's really smooth and cool.
Going well. Okay. Now, I read somewhere a little while ago that you thought that the Marquee Club in London, the headline show that you played there, was like one of the best gigs that you'd ever played. Do you still enjoy the challenge of a support slot?
We like just to play in general. You know, we like to play shows, and no matter what the so-called obstacle or the situation or whatever it is, you know, it's fun to play. And like the other night, we played with Megadeth. It was like a smaller place, small club, and it was killer, man. We miss those. We miss those, man.
Right. Now, your last album, Cowboys from Hell, was very raw, very aggressive. For a vulgar display of power, how did you try and eclipse that?
We just did it like we do it live. You know, we just wrote the song. We just wrote 11 songs, and they just turned out like that. We had come up with the title previous to that, you know, Vulgar Display of Power, you know, because we were so pumped to do the next record. We go, man, we're going to write this heavy record, man. We know it's going to be heavy just because we had spoken to each other about, you know, ideas of the riffs and the songs and stuff, and we go, man, you know, this sucker's going to work. And it just
had to live up to the name.
Had
Vulgar Display of Power.
Well, it most certainly does. But I mean, but it is a produced album. You've kind of got quite a good compromise there.
Meaning what? Produced?
Well,
I mean, it doesn't sound bad.
No, I mean, a lot of bands might go in and like just lay it down live, but you've obviously taken time to get it sounding really, really good.
Oh yeah, well that's
Vinny. That's Vinny, the drummer.
Yeah.
He's real good at that. Him and Terry work together in studio really hard.
It's Terry Date.
Terry Date. Yep.
What'd I say?
Terry. Oh, see, they might be thinking you're talking about
Terry from Wrathchild.
Right, Terry from Wrathchild.
It was co-produced by Vinny, right?
Right.
Okay. Phil, a question for you actually. Most of the album seems, most of the lyrics certainly are based on anger and frustration, but it is kind of tempered with other emotions. Do you find that the best way of expressing yourself writing songs?
Well, you know, everybody always find it really easy to find, you know, the angry and the aggressive and the frustrated parts, but you know, to me it's like a therapy thing, and it seems like it's almost like not a story really, but at the end of each song there's a positive thing that comes out of each one of them. You know, they're positive to me. You know, they're just
anger,
it's like channeling all this hatred and anger and stuff. You know, and people might say, "Oh, what the hell are you so angry about?" You know, I live in the States, man, just like anybody else, and I'm 24 years old. You know, these are times when you know, you should be at your happiest, you know, but there's something always there to swat you down and stuff like that. And always just, you know, this roadblock and all these damn rules that you have to live by. So, you know, to me, the lyrics on Vulgar all are very relevant to anybody who's listening, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, so when you've been on stage, are you like really, really psyched, or are you like emotionally, physically drained?
On stage, just depending on the day, on the gig. A lot of times, you know, so we're really hard on one another, you know, as a whole, you know, and also we're hard on each other individually because, you know, we always want to do our best, you know, put forth 150% every night, and
actually, talking about 5 Minutes Alone, that actually came from a real situation where, for a fucking change, I wasn't guilty of starting some offstage brawl or some crap like that. And out of nowhere, left field, I think we played a California show. I'm not particularly, I don't remember the exact place or city. But here comes this lawsuit, and it's this guy claiming that I jumped off stage and beat him up, and his dad had quotes, and one of his dad's quotes was, "I don't care about any lawsuit, I just like to get that Phil Anselmo 5 minutes alone." And my manager answered him back, "No, you wouldn't."
Throughout the 1990s, one of the most critically acclaimed and best-selling metal bands in the world was Pantera, and one of the driving forces behind the band's success was guitarist Dimebag Darrell Abbott, who co-founded the band along with his brother Vinnie Paul. After years of experimentation, Darrell had finally succeeded in blending the fast pace of thrash metal with the smooth bluesy rhythms of 70s rock, in a new style that would go on to be named groove metal. Despite these problems, the band continued touring together for the remainder of the 1990s, but the tensions between Phil and the Abbott brothers only seemed to grow. In addition to his drug problem, Anselmo was known to say outrageous things on stage that would often draw negative attention to the band, something he still seems to have a problem with to this day. Dimebag, Vinnie, and bassist Rex Brown very much didn't appreciate this, as they wanted Pantera to be known more for their music rather than controversy. Additionally, Phil began taking long breaks from the group and focusing more of his energy into side projects, such as the band's Down and Superjoint Ritual. At first, the other band members were fine with this, as Anselmo was capable of balancing these side projects with his responsibilities to Pantera. But as the 90s wore on, that became less and less the case. 2000's Reinventing the Steel, which would prove to be their final studio release. They would continue to tour for the remainder of 2000 into 2001, and would play their last show together at Yokohama, Japan on August 28, 2001. A few weeks later, the September 11th attacks took place, and according to Vinnie, Phil contacted him in the aftermath and indicated that he wanted to take a break from touring for a while. Unfortunately, that never happened, and in 2003 it was announced that Pantera had officially broken up. Following the band's breakup, Dimebag was heartbroken and very dejected. He had poured his soul into this group for over 20 years, and felt completely blindsided by their separation. To add salt to the wound, the relationship between him and his once good friend Phil Anselmo had deteriorated drastically following the band's breakup. This soon turned ugly, as Anselmo would often make public statements hurling insults at Dimebag and Vinnie, as well as blaming them for Pantera's breakup, which inevitably divided the fan base over who was at fault. Initially, the Abbott brothers considered trying to reform the band with a new singer, but given Phil's attitude toward them at the time, they thought it was very likely this would result in a lengthy legal battle over who had the rights to the Pantera brand. So instead, they decided the best direction would be to start a new group entirely. They recruited former Halford frontman Patrick Lockman as the vocalist, as well as bassist Robert Kakaha, who had the ridiculously cool stage name of Bobzilla, and eventually settled on the name Damage Plans. The venues they played at were a far cry from the sold-out stadiums they found themselves in just a decade ago. But for Dimebag, this didn't matter, as for him it was all about the love of the music. Tragically, this love of performing and the love he had for the millions of fans he'd gained over the years would be the very thing that killed him. Nathan Gale was a native of Marysville, Ohio, who had what one would call a troubled life. Gale had suffered from several mental health issues from the time he was a young child, and was enrolled in special education during his time in grade school. And these symptoms only got worse as he got older, earning him the not-so-affectionate nickname of Crazy Nate from his friends. Nathan began listening to Pantera in high school, when a friend loaned him a copy of Vulgar Display of Power. He would tell friends that he befriended the group at a show and that they agreed to come play a concert for him at a friend's birthday party, and the reason he knew this was hidden messages inside of the CD sleeve. These delusions became even more surreal as Gale would later start complaining that Pantera had stole lyrics and guitar riffs from him, and that he was in the process of suing the group. He eventually took this yet one step further and told people the band was trying to steal his identity. After high school, Nathan enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, but was discharged only a year after enlisting due to military psychiatrists diagnosing him with schizophrenia. On December 8, 2004, though, that would all change. Damageplan was making an appearance at the El Rosa Villa nightclub in Columbus, Ohio. It was a small venue that wouldn't have drawn someone like Dimebag Darrell during the height of Pantera's popularity. But for him and Vinny, it was the perfect kind of venue to play in. A small little hole in the wall where they got to be right near the fans was just the kind of thing Darrell loved. Unbeknownst to him at the time, Nathan Gale was waiting outside hoping to catch Dimebag as he was coming off the band's tour bus. In his pocket was a loaded Beretta 9mm, which he'd intended to use to finally take vengeance on the members of Pantera who, in his mind, had stolen his song lyrics and were continuing to try and steal his identity. Months earlier, he had rushed the stage at a Damageplan show in Cincinnati, Ohio, but was stopped by security before he could get close to the band. He was unarmed, and apart from kicking over some musical equipment as security removed him from the building, hadn't caused any harm, so the incident was barely a blip on the group's radar. Nathan decided to change his plan and waited outside while the opening acts performed. During this time, the club's security took notice of him hanging around, but wrote him off as a straggler just trying to get into the show without a ticket. As Damageplan took to the stage and began their introductions, Gale scaled a wooden fence around the back of the club and made his way into a side door that was unlocked and started walking towards the stage. Security spotted him immediately and began following him, but didn't view it as an emergency as they were still assuming he just wanted to sneak into the show without paying. Suddenly, as Damageplan began playing their first song of their set list, Nathan rushed the stage and pulled the pistol out of his coat pocket. Before anyone realized what was going on, he ran up to Dimebag and fired 4 shots into his former hero. 3 of them struck Darrell in the head and a 4th went through his hand. He collapsed on the floor and died instantly at the age of 38. Initially, the crowd thought this was some sort of elaborate stunt, and some of them actually cheered. Gale then turned and fired a shot at Damageplan's tour manager Chris Paluska, striking him in the chest before the band's head of security, Jeffrey Thompson, rushed Nathan and tackled him. During the struggle, Thompson was shot 3 times and would eventually die of his wounds. By this point, a full-blown panic had started amongst the audience, as Patrick Lockman screamed into the mic for someone to call 911 and jumped off stage to escape the shooter. A club employee had ran out of a rear exit when the first shots were fired and placed a call to 911 from a nearby payphone. Police rushed to arrive on scene, but inside the chaos continued. Gale stood up and realized during his melee with Thompson he had lost his glasses, making it harder for him to see. At this point, a fan attending the show named Nathan Bray had jumped on stage and was attempting to help the fatally wounded Dimebag. Gale turned and pointed the gun at him, firing a shot through his chest and killing him, after which the gun ran out of ammunition. As he fumbled around to reload, a club employee by the name of Aaron Halk attempted to subdue the much larger Gale, and was shot 6 times, which killed him instantly. A stagehand named John Brooks then rushed Nathan and was shot twice in the leg before being taken hostage. As all this was happening, Ohio police had rushed the building, including Officer James Nagameyer, who made his way into the club through a rear entrance armed with a Remington 12-gauge shotgun. Sneaking up behind them and realizing he had the element of surprise and that another life would likely be lost if he didn't act, the officer took aim at Gale from behind Vinnie Paul's drum set and fired a shot through Nathan's face, killing him instantly.
People want my reaction to what happened. This is not about me. This is about Dimebag Darrell. Purely Darrell. It's not about me or some motherfucking psycho that happened to destroy the most beautiful person. One of my best friends in the world. It was the heavy metal goddamn media that destroyed Pantera. The This is about Daryl, my brother of 17 years, who are Pantera's music changed people's lives, man. We weren't just some band. He was not just some guitar player. I want to say, bless his family and all of his close friends. And I never got a chance to say goodbye in the right way, and it kills me. And I'm so sorry. I wish to God I could have gone to his funeral, but I have to respect his family's wishes. And they do not want me there. I believe I belong there. But I understand completely. I'm so sorry to his band members.
Hey you, don't miss out our next video. Hit that subscribe button for exclusive videos and join our awesome community and enjoy. Subscribe now!